Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the tornado a year older, Tony Pennicamp.
Happy birthday.
And Psychic Tom Paget with the stars are in line for action. I just checked.
All right, well, this episode, tonight's show probably ought to be sponsored by Heinz, because we're going to be doing a lot of catch-up. UFC Fight Night 177, September 12th. We didn't get a chance to talk about it because we didn't have the show last week. Michelle Waterson got the win over Angela Hill. Again, I didn't get a chance to watch much fights. I'm in the heavy wood business season, so I can only tell you it must have been a good fight because it went 5, and it was a split decision win for Michelle. So Angela Hill continues to improve, obviously. Other than that, I can't tell you much. Can you rescue me, Tom?
No, I confess to being a little too bored. The card really had no interest. So,
yeah.
Confession.
There was a lady I used to see a lot in the Massachusetts circuit on the card, Roxanne Modafferi. I interviewed her briefly once after a fight card put on by the big guy, Butterbean, down there in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And that was a privilege just going to that and getting to meet him in person. And, that was the one I met Herb Dean too, and Herb Dean was so desperate for an interview back then, he gave me his number, and then he just proceeded to never respond to it after the fact. They must have briefed him that I was the science guy or something. But yeah, Roxanne.
Yeah, you're clear this guy.
Roxanne had won by slam or something like that. It was a crazy fight. Very, very soft spoken. But she got a big win over Andrea Lee by unanimous decision. Another guy, Otman Azaitar, beating Kamaworthy in the first round. It was a TKO from punches. And it was a big controversy in the Ed Herman fight with Mike Rodriguez. He ended up hanging on for a late submission, Kimura. But the referee, Chris Stagnoni, got absolutely bamboozled by the angle. Ed Herman supposedly was about to get knocked out. It looked pretty bad. He looked like ready to go, and the referee ruled it a low blow. Elbow. No, it was a knee to the chest, I believe. I did see the replay of this one. And it was very controversial. The fight was allowed to continue. Herman was given a rest when Rodriguez probably could have finished the fight and won in that previous round. I don't know if it was the second or the first. But Ed Herman hung on and got a Kimura submission because of the break. And Dana White, as Dana White does, immediately criticized the referee, called it the most disgusting thing he's ever seen in MMA. So, if that tells you anything. But obviously, it's one of those things that raises the specter of instant replay in MMA.
Exactly, that was talked about because Chris is a good referee. Chris is a very good referee. He was working the night, when I was out there with Brent, for real MMA, and so I got to know him a bit. And very professional, nice guy. I hated to hear that, but
yeah.
It seems like an honest mistake. Again, we've talked about instant replay till we're blue in the face. I don't know. We'll see if it ever happens.
Rodriguez didn't appear to protest either too much, so he believed it himself, apparently, at the time. It's just kind of crazy. But yeah, that's a rough one. Also, Bobby Green got the Academy Award for his post-fight speech, but I don't know much about the fight itself. He did win by unanimous decision over Alan Patrick, and his post-fight speech was very moving about, people that, are struggling all over the world, basically. And he's been raised by a white guy, a foster father. So he brought his foster father into the camera, and, was the whole all lives matter type deal. Good little speech. So that was kind of cool to see that people are using their platform, so to speak, in MMA to make good statements about race and all that. Anyway, got a couple fights worth mentioning here. Billy Quarantillo over Kyle Nelson by knockout. That was just 7 seconds into the third round from a punch. And Sijara Eubanks over Julia Avila by unanimous decision. I'll go through the whole list here. I don't have time for all these recaps. I'll only do the main events. Of course, then we had another UFC fight card. They're spitting them out like crazy. And it's kind of interesting to see. We haven't talked much about the NFL since we've had the season start, but it's one of the most fascinating things about the NFL to me since it started is the whole concept of these proximity meter devices that they were asked to wear while they were in camp. So you haven't really had a lot of NFL cases, especially since after the season started. I haven't really heard of any. Because they basically have these little meters that go on your wrist, and you're basically forced to social distance, or else you have to deal with, like, you know, the door being open alarm in your car. Beeping all the time. So you got to move away until it stops beeping. And then, you know, also it tracks you. So the genius of that is if anybody gets tested positive with all their testing that they have on top of this, then immediately they know who they were around, who that person was around, so they can go to those people and test them immediately. Which, if you had that at a nationwide level, I mean, you'd have no corona. Not that everybody would agree to being tracked like that, but yeah, that's very, very smart way to do it. And I don't think the UFC is doing anything like that, but they're obviously doing it right with all the testing that they're doing, and they haven't had any major outbreaks or clusters. So, just a little COVID inlet there to the story. But, yeah. It's one of those things. Alright, and we also had Overeem versus Sakai. That was another 5-rounder. Ended up being a TKO for Overeem in the 5th round, 26 seconds in, from elbows and punches. Yeah, I didn't get to see that one either. But apparently it was a good statement win for Overeem. 47-18-0 is his record. Augusto falls to 15-2-1. And then in the co-main event, we had Ovince St. Preux knocking out Alonzo Minifield. That was in the 2nd round from a knockout punch. 4 minutes and 7 seconds in. And then Michael Pereira over Zelim Imadev by technical submission, rear naked choke. And that was just 21 seconds left in the fight when that happened. And this one was quite the grudge match. I think one of them slapped the other one during the weigh-in or something like that. It was...
well, yeah, I did see that, and there was a bite, it appeared.
A bite?
Something special about
during the match? Yeah.
I always flash back to Tyson and Holyfield or pro wrestling. There's always... not Pierre, but again, what was the losing fighter's name again?
Zelim Amadeev and Michael Pereira.
Well, he was getting schooled. This Pereira guy was a Brazilian with that capoeira style, you know, like the gymnastic kicks, and he was making it work. He was just humiliating this guy. It was a beatdown. And so there's, I think, about 20 seconds left or something, and the guy had, on the bottom, had no chance, and it appeared that he bit him. Just gave him a little fight. So I think it was a disqualification or something. I don't know, what was the official record on that? It was such a
technical submission, they called it, rear naked choke. So I don't know if he bit him during the choke to get him to let go. But, and
he was protesting that also. And apparently this guy is a really bad actor. And I think about the Bobby Green guy, I think, well, he had fought him before. and he said he was causing trouble at the cafeteria at the hotel. I mean, come on, be a professional.
Yeah.
And this guy was just wanted to fight him right in the cafeteria area. And,
Takes
crazy.
Takes his fighting a little too seriously, I guess.
Not a bad, and then
he's gonna hate the guy.
And then I guess he was kicked out of Extreme Couture. He was no one to train with, just a terrible training partner. So yeah, he's bad news. Hopefully he's done.
Sometimes
there's something special about
sometimes
fighting.
what makes you a good fighter does not make you a good person.
yeah, and I think well, I mean it's a sport. I mean, you shouldn't really have a grudge about. I mean, you settle the grudge in the ring of the cage, not in a public, place. I mean, come on.
His nickname should be Bad Blood, I guess. With that as the term, description. He fits the description. Brian Kelleher beating Ray Rodriguez with a guillotine choke, 39 seconds into that fight. Then we had a female fight, Vivian Araujo over Montana De La Rosa by unanimous decision. And in the first fight of the night, Hunter Azor over Cole Smith by UD. And this was also some sort of record for the fewest fights on a UFC card because of all the... I was just talking about how good they were doing with Corona, but they actually had a couple positive tests get fights derailed on this card. But like I said, no big clusters, so they're doing all right in that area. Anyway, we got just a smorgasbord of other news before we get to the other recaps and upcoming fights. The biggest bombshell, I guess we could call it, is boxing story here with Canelo Alvarez suing Golden Boy and DAZN. And the backstory is very interesting too.
Crazy, ain't it?
I kind of read up on this, and so DAZN really kicked off their advertising with Heavy Canelo, after they made their agreement with him. He sold their platform, literally. He was the biggest name they had on contract. And supposedly the whole idea was Golden Boy was losing HBO. Top Rank had already moved in on ESPN. Showtime was already wrapped up with Premier Boxing Championships. Where was Oscar going to go? Oh, streaming service is coming out of nowhere. Pretending to be the best thing since sliced bread. So he hops on board. They're willing to spend millions in the beginning. They're thinking they're going to do fantastic. And so he signs on the dotted line for this ridiculous agreement that he probably believed at the time was going to work, but obviously with the shutdown and the quarantining and the corona shit, it's not been that great of an opportunity to have fights and fulfill these contractual obligations. So broken down, the suit outlined that DAZN agreed to pay Golden Boy $40 million for every Alvarez bout. Alvarez would get $35 million of that, and Golden Boy would get $5 million. Doesn't seem like a big overreach there, but anyway, for the first fight there was a reduced license fee for December 15th. Alvarez was paid $15 million for that fight, but Golden Boy's share is unknown. So basically what happened is Canelo sued. The court already threw it out, already dismissed it, but they've given the Canelo team a deadline as to when they can refile, because it's basically a technicality, is what they're saying. Something got, they haven't been specific about what it is, but something is not up to snuff. It's not technically filled out properly or something. It's probably some damn cover sheet was filled out wrong, for all we know. The way the law works, I can tell you, there's been more crazy coincidences like that have thrown lawsuits out of whack. But anyway, the Alvarez contract in total required Golden Boy to pay Alvarez guaranteed payments totaling $365 million for his next 11 boxing matches. So what Oscar did, apparently, is very dumb as a business move if you don't know that much about your business partner, which he couldn't have. I mean, they just got on the scene. And so what he did is he guaranteed the money, is what that says. So basically, if DAZN went bankrupt in Fight 3, Golden Boy's on the hook for all that money. I don't know how you make a deal like that. It just doesn't make any sense. But he did. So obviously that's why Alvarez is going after them both. So also, as part of the whole deal to make the Alvarez situation happen, Golden Boy went on and negotiated another deal to do his other shows on DAZN. So then HBO, after the deal was signed, stopped doing boxing in 2018. Golden Boy, like I said, Golden Boy rivals Top Rank and Premier Boxing Champions did their deals with their networks. Also Fox Network was wrapped up as well with Premier Boxing Champions, in addition to Showtime. So yeah, he literally had nowhere else to go. So he went all in, like it was a poker game, without thinking about the future and what could happen, what possible outcomes there were. So what's going to happen now is it's going to be almost like mediation.
And you know that...
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, and the sad thing, that Canelo has not had a fight all year.
Yeah.
And you look at all the possibilities. The winner of the Charlo Dernchenko fight, or the other Charlo brother, the trilogy with Triple G, or 168, David Benitez, Caleb Plant, or go to 175. He's got 2 monsters there waiting for him, and nothing all year.
Do that.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if you guys remember, you know, a few weeks ago in the year we were talking about, you know, the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight getting postponed, and you know, one of the speculations I had, which is purely speculation, which would be elections over, possible vaccine rolling out, and you can get somewhat of an audience in the stands. We're getting NFL games where Kansas City last week had fans in the stands, you know, on their like 20% capacity. Now, my wonderful city, Philadelphia, where our asshole mayor is allowing people to take over the Ben Franklin Parkway and the one park there and just set up tents for the last 4 months and basically just live in tents and shit all over the place.
They're going to love that in the winter.
And threaten anybody that comes near them. You know, that's their home now. Half of them have, their parents' house. He's done shit to get them out, but you know what he's done? Arrest anybody that tries to tailgate before the Eagles game on Sunday. So, but like I said, my thought process there is, with Canelo is such a big name, and it's a shame that this thing has taken basically a year away from his prime, because we had that big fight in May with Billy Joe Saunders, and then you're right, in September, which would have been last weekend, you look at the possibilities. You're right. You had Charlo out there. You had Dimitrenko out there. You had the other Charlo out there. You have 168. You have Caleb Plant. You have Billy Joe Saunders. You're right. You do have the two big light heavyweight names right now. Turbiev. You have Joe Smith. You have endless possibilities. But I could not see that fight happening in a bubble. Canelo's too big of a name to fight in the bubble. Even when everything was getting pushed back, okay, it'll only be 2 more weeks. Okay, maybe a month. And I'm like, there ain't going to be a fight in September. They could even take some minor, I hate to say a world title fight as being minor, but you're not going to put any premier names out there in a bubble like this. And that's why I think the next major events being Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones are in the third and fourth respective weeks of November. Election's over, and vaccines will be rolling out by then.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen is it's probably never going to see the inside of a courtroom. I would imagine that all these parties are sitting down trying to hammer out a settlement before it even has to be refiled, so that they can get Canelo back to work and he can get paid. But the big question is, do they have the money to do that settlement? I mean, you got Golden Boy talking about, coming back himself to box. Is he doing it for money, Is there any truth to the whole Dana White thing? Yeah, cocaine is expensive. That's why he's coming back. Who knows? The drama is endless with that whole camp. So it's going to be one of those things to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's really sad that he's such a big name for the sport. That network sunk all of that money and all their resources into that one character, and now he could ruin them by basically driving them into the ground with lawsuits like this, if he wants to. But I'm thinking they'll be able to convince him that it's worth shutting up about and moving forward and making things right, and hopefully they'll do right by him. But it's one of those things where something comes along, they think they're going to be the best. Now, with Premier Boxing Champions, it happened to work, their little scheme, and it was borderline criminal what they did with like a hedge fund. Basically, they put all the hedge fund's money into this entity, and without a lot of people knowing that's what they were going to do. And I was very surprised nobody went to jail over that, but because it was successful, I think a lot of people were willing to look the other way. With something like DAZN, I mean, it was really just kind of all about advertising. I haven't really experienced the service myself. I haven't had a need to go out there and buy it. There's nothing on there that I have to have, that I need to get. And also, an interesting part of this is that Bellator has decided to go to CBS Network now, for television purposes. And I don't know what that means for Bellator's.
Do you think that was a voluntary decision, or
I don't know.
Because here's why I'm asking. Paramount, I guess, is available in 81 million homes, and CBS Sports is right under 60 million. So it seems like a big drop-off.
Yeah.
A lot of cable plans don't have CBS Sports. Mine doesn't, for that matter. And it just seems like a backward step somehow to me. And that's why, I don't know, I haven't really looked at it. Maybe you have, Rich. If that would, because they're promoting it like, oh, this is a step up. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And I'm wondering if this was forced on them and they're trying to, that old cliche, make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I believe the Professional Fight League already has a deal with CBS Sports too, so, maybe they're making a big investment into expansion and getting a lot more leagues on the network, so more of those fans will go there and try to find that network however they can. There's a lot of other ways people can still watch if they don't have it on cable. Like all these streaming services too, on where you get free streams online. Anyway,
yeah.
But I just found it interesting that DAZN is also connected to Bellator. I don't know if they've had any contractual difficulties. I can't really say. I haven't researched that, but it's just interesting that they made that move.
You know what else?
At the same timing.
Something that's going to happen. And Rich, once again, everything I'm saying is purely speculation. I don't have Tom's crystal ball. I wish I did. But I think right now you have, take a guy like, Canelo Alvarez, who basically just saw a year of his prime go away. Just went away. And he's like, and I can see where his frustration is, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think they would be able to put up an event that would be worthy of, this contract. I think, once again, in the next 2 months, I think you're going to see a change happen, and I think it's going to be hopefully in the positive direction. I'm crossing fingers when I say that. And then once things start getting good, they might turn around to Canelo Alvarez, and they might say, Canelo, listen, let's take a tune-up fight. Let's take a tune-up fight in January, early January. Things open up, starting in November. We got maybe Fury and Wilder in December. Can you imagine that with no fans? I can't.
Well, we have an update on that.
Am I right? So now imagine.
They actually hope to have that December 19th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas.
So just imagine you get that
with a limited number of fans. That's their plan right now.
Right. So
10 to 15,000.
Okay, you're starting to say, okay, we're okay, and now you might say to Canelo, so let's get these first few ones under the belt. Maybe we'll put you in out there in January. Like a couple of years ago, I forget if it was Rocky Fielding they put him in there with to test his, test the waters at super middleweight. He knocked him out in 3 rounds, and it was basically just a way to get Canelo in the ring, get him at a higher weight, see how he did to build up to a bigger fight. So they might put him in there with a guy like that, and somebody maybe he'll take out in 2 to 3 rounds, but that's to get him in the ring, get something, and that way both sides win, right?
Right.
These are just little things that I'm trying to approach. Because I'm tired of pessimism. I'm tired of, everything you see on the news is negative. Everything you see is everybody bitching and fighting and moaning and stabbing and shooting and arguing and protesting and all that. No. We need, and it's basically what you're doing right now is like you're taking these people and, you're giving them no outlet for the last 7 months. No outlet whatsoever. And then it's like you're winding them up. I know I'm wound up like a son of a bitch. I went for a leisurely post-work walk.
Yeah.
I knocked out, not a run, a walk. I knocked out 5 miles in under an hour, or about an hour. I walked faster than most people jog.
There you go.
Because I was wound up.
Speed walking is the thing.
Last night, I had done a lot of working out. I had 13,000 steps under my belt. At one point, that was by the time I got finished lunch. Then by the time I finished work, I was up to 23,000 steps. Then I went downstairs to the gym. That wasn't good because I was wound up. You get so many things from people, and they're not getting that natural release. My natural release is a lot of social events, baseball games, concerts, Phillies games where I got the outfit on, public appearances, and you're taking that from me. You take a lot of these people that like to go to maybe community basketball leagues or barbecues and cookouts, and you're taking all that from them, you are getting a lot of negativity building up fast.
Right.
I think we need some positivity.
Exactly. Well, here's a good one for you, Tony. I know you said there's not a lot going on in boxing lately, but we had a heavyweight match the other day with a couple of notables, Sergey Karatanov and Danny Williams, the old Mike Tyson foe. Now, this wasn't the craziest part of the fight that they fought, but it was in Russia, so Karatanov walked to the ring with a live bear, and it sent PETA and animal rights activists through the roof that he walked to the ring with a bear. So I guess that's what they're doing. They're pulling out all the stops to get attention for boxing. A bear will do it. Karatanov got the win, TKO victory. And it was called a strange stoppage. I'm not sure why. It's got a little video here, but I'm not going to watch it right now. 40-year-old Sergey Karatanov, and obviously he's got to be over 40. Danny Williams, one of Mike Tyson's last opponents.
Well, you figure that was 2004.
Right.
Yeah, that was 16 years ago, so you figure. I mean, even if which he wasn't, but imagine if he was 18 years old then, that would still make him 34 years old. He was not 18. 18 years old then.
Right.
So if he was, 30, it puts him at 46.
Yeah. So, that's happening. Also, there's been a little bit of news spreading like wildfire. I don't know if it's a psychological tactic or he's really, really concerned, but Roy Jones Jr. seems to be now having some regrets about setting up this boxing match with Tyson.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, trainer today.
And we talked about the whole theory behind why Mike did this. Roy Jones Jr. was not known as a heavyweight, so he's going to be dealing with a big weight disadvantage. And just naturally, he's not going to feel like a heavyweight. And no matter how much experience you have, you guys, we all know from fighting, weight makes the biggest difference of all. But if he can use speed and stay out of his range and let Tyson tire himself out, different story. But there's a lot of upside for Tyson, and not so much for Roy Jones Jr. The more you think about it, and I think he's getting that thought in his head, and it's kind of bothering him. But he's obviously getting everything he wants because he made a little bit of a stink when the fight got rescheduled, and it has not backed out because of that. So,
a few weeks ago, talking about weight differences and your strength differences in there, I was over at my one friend's house. We went over his neighbor, and I've known his neighbor for about 10 years. And his neighbor has a couple grandkids, and they're still young. They're like 10-ish, like the ones like 10 years old maybe. And he plays hockey. He's a husky little kid. But, pretty good athlete. And I was telling him, and all the grandkids, him 10, and the other ones like maybe 6 or 7. And they're like, Mr. Tony, you used to box? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wow, can you show us stuff? And then my one friend's son, who's in his mid-20s, he was being all mouthy and rambunctious. So I threw a few jabs and hit him a few times, in the chest and the arms, and hit him with a left hook in the arm and all that. And these kids loved it. And I took the oldest kid, Trey, who's about 10 years old, and I said, Trey, I'm going to teach you a secret, and you can use this in hockey as well. When you're fighting up against the boards and trying to get the puck loose. I said, when I was 20 years old, I was about a month shy of turning 21, and I was doing a few sparring down in South Philly, and they put me in with Gerald the Jedi Nobles, who fought on the Roy Jones Tarver undercard when Tarver knocked him out. You got any excuses tonight, Roy? And so Gerald was undefeated at the time, and he was, going to have a fight in a few weeks at the Blue Horizon, fighting the main event. Guy he was fighting, was, somebody you would fight on your way up. Guys are bringing him in. He has some wins, mostly losses. You're figuring he is not going to win this fight. Gerald calls me and goes, hey, who's going to get in the ring with me? I'm looking at Gerald. I'm like, Gerald's like 6'3", and he's about 250 to 260 pounds, and I'm about 190, 193. And he goes, and I'm thinking, and he's a professional heavyweight that's knocked out 90% plus of his opponents. And I'm like, shit, And he goes, I just want to get in there. I want to work some defense. I want you to throw some punches. And I'm like, okay. So we get in there, and we're working around, and I'm mostly using offense, and he's mostly using footwork, defense, blocking punches, parrying, and all that. And then he got me, and he took his glove, and he wrapped it around my neck, almost like you would do to a grandson, like you grab him around the back of the head and say, come here, boy. He kind of did that to me. And he pulled me into a clinch. And as he was doing that, I started throwing these body shots that, were thudding. And it was like, water off a duck's back. Wasn't doing nothing to him, right? And then he backed me into a corner, and he leaned all that 260-plus pounds on me. And he goes, do you know what I'm doing to you? And he has his hand wrapped around my neck. And I'm like, no. He goes, I'm making you tired. And he leaned all that weight. And now, my legs are carrying my 190-plus pounds and his 250 pounds. So I'm carrying 450 pounds, basically, right now, my legs. And I could feel them starting to wobble and get jelly. So that's what I told this kid, Trey. I said, Trey, here's a little secret. You get a guy, you know, in the corners of that, you know, ice hockey rink, and you work there, and you use your strength on him. You're a big kid. Use your strength. Wear him down. Because after that, he'll get tired. And now he might be faster than you, but he can't run no more, and he can't skate fast no more. But that's the same thing there about, you know, the weight difference. You might not think that, but a guy that's been in there, Mike Tyson's fought some really big guys in his life. I mean, some guys were big. Carl the Truth Williams was 6'4", 230 pounds. Larry Holmes was big. You know, Danny Williams, one of Mike Tyson's last guys, was big. Lennox Lewis, 6'250". These were big guys. The biggest guy Roy's ever fought was John Ruiz, and that was a fight where Roy was only 193, and he employed such a game plan where it was hit and run. That was 17 years ago. And I don't know if Roy can do that hit and run like he used to, where he would stay out of the inside with a guy like John Ruiz. Can he do that to Mike Tyson? I don't know.
Well, we shall see. Anyway, fight happening right around that time, November 21st, rematch between Alexander Povetkin and Dillian White. That's been set in stone now.
Scheduled already, huh?
Yep. This was a rematch clause in the White's contract. He quickly executed, so that is going to be in the future.
Well, I'll tell you what the big storyline is, you know, going into that fight. Obviously not just the rematch, but, you know, Dillian White was, you know, winning handily, had 2 knockdowns until he got caught. So if you take away that big uppercut, likely Dillian White wins that fight, probably by knockout in another round or two. Now, does it be like Hasim Rahman and Lennox Lewis, where Lewis comes out there focused and gets his revenge? Or does it become where Dillian White, who was knocked out cold, is now kind of shell-shocked, and, you know, he becomes jittery, happy feet, and you know, as Dr. Cox would always say, man,
break it up there, Tony.
You guys asleep with mine.
No, no, just listening.
Oh, no, I was just saying Tony was breaking up.
I don't know, like, what you guys do on that.
I don't know if
You're breaking up.
you were like fading in and out, but you're back now. Anyway, switching gears here. Also want to mention sad story in boxing. One of Floyd Mayweather's best prodigies, Danny Gonzalez, was shot and killed. 22 years old. I believe they've already arrested 3 dudes. I think that just came out today, but yeah, sad situation. He was reportedly spending time with family and friends at a picnic in the Moreno Valley, California area during the Labor Day evening, and an individual reportedly approached him and opened fire. So that was it. We don't even know what it was about. So he was signed when he was just 18 years old in 2016, and thought he struck gold, but it's just really unfortunate. Like, California doesn't have enough shit to deal with everything burning down and, you know, people shitting in the streets in San Francisco. And riots.
We got that in Philly now, too.
Yeah. Unreal. HBO's Real Sports.
Did you see the one video where they were showing the wildfires and a tornado touched down in the middle of the wildfires?
Oh, yeah, it was a fire tornado. I saw that.
Yeah, it was pretty banging.
That was nuts. HBO's Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel is investigating weight cutting in MMA. Returns on September 22nd, and it's going to figure feature a segment with correspondent David Scott, who will explore what is described as extreme dehydration practices used by mixed martial arts fighters to make weight. So look out for that. You know, HBO might be out of the boxing business, but they're still into sports, and they do a lot with the documentaries and stuff like that. I don't get HBO, so I don't know if I'll be able to watch that anywhere else, but I'll find a way to watch it somehow, I'm sure. But yeah, it's always a topic of discussion. 9 times out of 10, with the MMA deaths we've had, it's been due to weight cutting, primarily, that it's happened, so. Interesting. Alright, Nate Quarry. It was a really crazy story. He was in the news last week because he says he's still under contract with the UFC 10 years after his last fight with the promotion. I'm pretty sure he's wrapped up in the antitrust suit as well with Kung Lee and all those guys. But he made his MMA debut back in 2001 in Extreme Challenge. Fought 6 fights on the regional scene before getting signed by the UFC. Competed in the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. Got injured on the show and was replaced by Chris Lieben. Then he got signed by the UFC after that and quickly knocked out Lodun Kincaid, Shoney Carter, and Pete Sell. They then gave him a middleweight title shot against Rich Franklin at UFC 56. But he got knocked out. And then he continued to fight until 2010 when he decided to announce his retirement following a knockout loss to Jorge Rivera. He finished with a 7-3 record in the UFC and overall 12-4. So I've actually spoken with Nate myself on Facebook and kind of tried to hint about an interview, but he's still kind of afraid to speak out against the organization in public. He's probably been advised against it because of the lawsuit. But yeah, he's kind of been open about some of these issues with fighters and has not been afraid to voice his opinion. Just doesn't want to do it on camera or on a radio show. But yeah, he's somebody that's pushing the Ali Expansion Act, and he also wants to give fighters the right to shop their services to other promotions. And this actually came up because of Nick Diaz talking about making a return 6 years after his last fight in the UFC. And this became a news story because some people were actually surprised that Diaz is still under contract with the UFC. But that does not surprise Quarry because he is. So the Ali Expansion Act obviously would remedy that kind of situation. But kind of crazy. A few days after his retirement, he tweeted he got an email from the UFC. "We see you've retired. Should you choose to come out of retirement, you're still under contract with the UFC." That was it. A form email digitally signed by Dana White. That's ridiculous. Anyway. That's quite the interesting story. I wasn't aware that he's still under contract, but again, I'm not surprised. Okay, now we go to Bellator. We're going to finish up with boxing. We'll go to the 2 Bellator fights we missed, and then the UFC fight coming up this weekend, and then boxing. Juan Archuleta over Patrick Mix on September 12th in Connecticut at Mohegan Sun. That was the main event. It was a 5-round unanimous decision for Juan. Patrick was the less experienced fighter with a 13-1 record. Juan came in at 25-2, so obviously used his experience, got the win. Neiman Gracie beating John Fitch, forcing him into retirement. He retired after the fight. The heel hook submission in the second round, 4 minutes and 47 seconds in. So you have another Gracie establishing his dominance there in that league. I believe he only has one loss. Liz Carmouche, also on the card, in her first appearance on a Bellator card, beating Deanna Bennett, rear naked choke, one of her favorite moves. 3 minutes and 17 seconds into the third. And we had Keone Diggs over Derek Campos by rear naked choke. That was with 1 second left in the fight. How do you like that? Daniel Madrid over Pat Casey by split decision. And we had Ty Gorder over George Tacos by TKO. That was 1 minute and 5 seconds into round 3. And then a technical decision with Davion Franklin beating Ross Halton. A unanimous technical decision. That was Bellator 246. Bellator 245 featured a couple different big stories. Main event, Phil Davis versus Lyoto Machida. Two UFC castaways. Davis 22-5. Lyoto Machida 26-10. Davis got the win. Took him 3 rounds to get the split decision. Surprised they didn't make that 5-rounder, the main event, but I guess they didn't want it. So I don't know what the controversy was, or whether the judge was just friendly to Lyoto, but I didn't get to see this one either. Kat Zingano in the co-main event, beating Gabrielle Holloway by unanimous decision. I've seen Holloway fight. She's a scrapper. She's going to be around for a while. I didn't get to see that one, though, unfortunately. Taylor Johnson over Ed Ruth by inverted heel hook submission. That was just 1 second shy of a minute into the fight.
Yeah, that was slick. That was very, 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 very slick.
And it's very rare in a fight card to have a no contest, period. But to have 2 no contests, that's even more rare. And what they were for, this is the craziest story. Okay, we had Raymond Daniels and Peter Stanonik. No contest ruled because of an accidental kick to the groin. 1 minute into round 2. And we know Raymond Daniels comes from a kickboxing background, so you can just imagine what happened to poor Peter Stanonik. It was a viral nut shot.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
And twice. I mean, he was down the first time, and you felt terrible for the guy. He was just yelling, and my God, it was awful. And then it happens immediately afterwards. We knew that was pretty much it. But he was given it a decent before that happened.
Right. And I don't know who hit who, but also the same exact no contest excuse happened in the second fight of the night with Terrell Fortune and Jack May. Accidental knee to the groin. 2 minutes and 42 seconds into the first round, that one ended. So yeah, that's crazy. 2 no contests due to groin strikes. Wow. Maybe in the first Ultimate Fighter, UFC days 1 and 2. this day and age, that's very rare. Alex Polizzi over Rafael Carvalho, that was a unanimous decision. And Leslie Smith over Amanda Bell, also unanimous decision. And the first fight of the night, Keith Lee over Vinicius Azani by unanimous decision. And then we have Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley coming up this weekend. UFC Fight Night 178. I don't know how this is a fight night, not a full-fledged UFC card. But quite the lineup here. We got a co-main event of Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Nico Price. As far as the main event, though, Tyron has not looked himself these last few bouts. It's just something is just not right in his head. Doesn't seem as dedicated to it as he was when he was champion and beating everybody. I don't know. Something, it's like a piece of him is missing. So Colby Covington could take advantage of that. He's had himself some tough scraps in his last couple fights as well, but against really, really, really tough fighters. And Tyron has lost a step, so I think I like Colby in this one. I know I like his trash talk game better.
Yeah. This is Colby's fight to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I agree. Woodley is just no energy.
Right.
He couldn't do anything. I mean, when he was on top, he was brutal on the ground. He was brutal on the feet. And now it's just either his drive's gone, or he's got a ton of distractions, or there's something physically. Maybe he's just. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, until something changes, you got to go with Colby, even though it is a grudge fight.
Right.
So they add a little bit to it. I'll be watching.
And Donald Cerrone and Nico Price in the co-main event. Cowboy is 36-15. Nico is 14-4. It's all about which Cowboy shows up. This is not world beater in Nico Price, so this might just be kind of the UFC's version of a tune-up fight for Donald for another big opportunity. But we'll see. We'll find out how good Nico is.
If he loses.
Yeah. Or, walk away. Say, yeah, I tried, but if these guys are beating me, I'm going to have to leave. That's the life of a fighter. Khamzat Chimaev in fight 13 of the night, fighting Gerald Mearshart, who is 31-13. And then we got Ryan Spann fighting Johnny Walker. Usually when you're fighting Johnny Walker, it's in the bottle at home, right? But now he's got to fight in the octagon.
This will be interesting. Rich, going back to that Mercer fight, that's quite a, I guess that's developed into a grudge fight also, because his opponent is the guy that is taking everyone out in the first round. I mean, the guy's been unstoppable.
Oh, Chimaev, yeah. He's the phenom.
Yeah. And one of our former guests, Duke Rufus, is very upset about the way his fighter Mearshart is being overlooked, because the opponent has said he wants to fight every couple of weeks if he could.
Yeah.
And so he's had to. Now he's fighting Mearshart, and he's already signed for a card in November. Like, he's looking past Mearshart. So the new group is really threw a fit about it. And Mearshart says he's not going to have to worry about November after what I do to him. So, well, this will be a fun card. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, there's a shitload of fights on this one. 15 fights. Mackenzie Dern is also on the card. She is 8-1 and fighting Randa Marcos, who's 10-8-1, but a very tough opponent. Mackenzie can be really tough herself, but depends on what kind of style Randa comes in with. She's kind of a different type of fighter. By the way, Johnny Walker is 17-5, and Ryan Spann is 18-5 for that fight. Before that, we got Kevin Holland, 18-5, fighting Darren Stewart, who's 12-5. Miguel Beza, 9-0, fighting Jeremiah Wells, 8-2-1. Mirsad Bektik, 13-3, fighting Damon Jackson, 17-3-1. In the early going. And we got a whole lot going on the early fights, but nobody huge. Kind of an interesting name here in the first fight. Tyson Nam. 19-11-1, fighting Jerome Rivera, 10-2. We also have Erwin Rivera on the same card. I wonder if they're related. Anyway, to boxing. We go to Box Rec. And speaking of no contests, we had a couple of them last Saturday. Jessica Neri Plata and Sandra Robles was a no contest, and Daniel Argueta and Joaquin Cruz were both no contests. Other than that, we had Egidijus Kavaliauskas, I'm probably butchering that one, beating Michael Zuski over the weekend, Saturday. Anthony Yard beating Dex Spellman. Let's see what else we had. Friday, we had Fedor Chudanov over Umar Sadiq, and Lourdes Juarez over Candy Sandoval. And then the big ones this week. are Erickson Lubin and Terrell Gausha, and Jose Pedraza and Javier Molina. We'll get to the rest of the fights on Saturday, and then there's nothing until next Friday, really, for big stuff. Jermell Charlo versus Jason Rosario next Saturday, and some
that'll be a good fight.
Yeah, we had a Jesus fight on the 6th.
Charlo's favorite one. Jesus Rosario can punch, man. I mean, you saw what he did in Philadelphia this year.
Jesus won his fight from the last show. I believe we made this their Jesus fight of the week. Jesus Alejandro Ramos over Esteban Garcia on the 6th. So, good news for Jesus. As if he needed it. Anyway. We got our mismatch of the week here right off the bat from Brabant, Belgium. Antoine Van Aker. He is 13-1, fighting Filip Potorovic, who is 0-1-1. Probably not going to get that first win anytime soon there. Let's see. And here's an interesting one leading off the card in Baja California, Mexico. We got Kevin Torres, 16-1-1 against Jose Cuevas, who is 13-1-1, super lightweight. And we have a title on the line in the co-main event. Brennan Reyes Macias and Carlos Norberto, I should say, at bantamweight. Macias is 7-0-2 and Carlos is 12-0-2. So if somebody's always got to go, and it's for the vacant WBC Youth World Bantamweight title in Mexico. Okay. And then we go to Las Vegas, ESPN Plus at the Bubble on Saturday. Jose Pedraza, they call him the Sniper, at super lightweight. He is 27-3, fighting Javier Molina, 22-2. He is coming off a loss in his last fight, so it's going to be a tough one. I don't know. We don't really predict a lot of fights lately, but that's a good one on paper for sure. Heavyweights in the co-main event. Jonathan Rice, 13-5-1, fighting Efe Ajagba, 13-0. And then we got Robeisy Ramirez, 4-1, fighting Felix Carballo, who is 13-2-2. That's a whole nother era I'm trying to go to with the Carballo. Yikes. Alright, that's about it. Not a lot of boxing going on around the world. Gotta get Canelo back. Get some cards together. Alright, you guys got anything else we need to add that I forgot about? Hello?
Hello?
Did we lose you?
You faded out there for a while, Rich.
Oh, sorry. How long? Anyway.
Well, I mean, we could hear you. You were going over the fight schedule,
Oh,
and
okay.
then you kind of had a few hiccups in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm having some problems with my connection. It might be because I probably forgot to change my computer from one room to the other. I got like an extender on my Wi-Fi. Yeah, I should be connected to the extension, and I'm connected to the regular one. Anyway, you guys got anything else to add before we wrap it up? You there? Hello?
Yeah, still here.
Alright. Yeah, so I just did the switch. Alright, you guys got anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I can't think of nothing.
Yeah, I think we covered it good.
Alrighty. Well, until next week, thanks for stopping by.
right, guys. It was a weekend.
You too.
Enjoy the fight.
Stay warm. It's getting frosty out there.